111. Your company requires the security and network engineering teams to identify all network anomalies within and across VPCs, internal traffic from VMs to VMs, traffic between end locations on the Internet and VMs, and traffic between VMs to Google Cloud services in production. Which method should you use? A. Define an organization policy constraint. B. Configure packet mirroring policies. C. Enable VPC flow logs on the subnet. D. Monitor and analyze cloud audit logs. Correct answer, B. B. Configure packet mirroring policies. 112. Your company has been creating users manually in Cloud Identity to provide access to Google Cloud resources. Due to continued growth of the environment, you want to authorize the Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS, instance and integrate it with your on-premises LDAP server to onboard hundreds of users. You are required to replicate user and group lifecycle changes from the on-premises LDAP server in Cloud Identity. Disable any manually created users in Cloud Identity. You have already configured the LDAP search attributes to include the users and security groups in scope for Google Cloud. What should you do next to complete this solution? A. 1. Configure the option to suspend domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task. B. 1. Configure the option to delete domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Run GCDS after user and group lifecycle changes. C. 1. Configure the LDAP search attributes to exclude manually created Cloud Identity users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task. D. 1. Configure the LDAP search attributes to exclude manually created Cloud Identity users not found in LDAP. 2. Run GCDS after user and group lifecycle changes. Correct answer, A. A. 1. Configure the option to suspend domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task. 113. You are troubleshooting access denied errors between compute engine instances connected to a shared VPC and BigQuery datasets. The datasets reside in a project protected by a VPC service controls perimeter. What should you do? A. Add the host project containing the shared VPC to the service perimeter. B. Add the service project where the compute engine instances reside to the service perimeter. C. Create a service perimeter between the service project where the compute engine instances reside and the host project that contains the shared VPC. D. Create a perimeter bridge between the service project where the compute engine instances reside and the perimeter that contains the protected BigQuery datasets. Correct answer, A. A. Add the host project containing the shared VPC to the service perimeter. (114). You recently joined the networking team, supporting your company's Google Cloud implementation. You are tasked with familiarizing yourself with the firewall rules configuration and providing recommendations based on your networking and Google Cloud experience. What product should you recommend to detect firewall rules that are overlapped by attributes from other firewall rules with higher or equal priority? A. Security Command Center. B. Firewall rules logging. C. A VPC flow logs. D. A firewall insights. Correct answer, D. D. A firewall insights. 115. The security operations team needs access to the security-related logs for all projects in their organization. They have the following requirements. Follow the least privilege model by having only view access to logs. Have access to admin activity logs. Have access to data access logs. Have access to access transparency logs. Which identity and access management, IAM, role should the security operations team be granted? A. Roles/logging.private log viewer. B. Roles/logging.admin. C. Roles/viewer. D. Roles/logging.viewer. Correct answer, A. A. Roles/logging.private log viewer. 116. You are exporting application logs to cloud storage. You encounter an error message that the log syncs don't support uniform bucket level access policies. How should you resolve this error? A. Change the access control model for the bucket. B. Update your sync with the correct bucket destination. C. Add the roles/logging.logwriter identity and access management, IAM, role to the bucket for the log sync identity. D. Add the roles/logging.bucketwriter identity and access management, IAM, role to the bucket for the log sync identity. Correct answer is A. 117. You plan to deploy your cloud infrastructure using a CI/CD cluster hosted on Compute Engine. You want to minimize the risk of its credentials being stolen by a third party. What should you do? A. Create a dedicated cloud identity user account for the cluster. Use a strong self-hosted vault solution to store the user's temporary credentials. B. Create a dedicated cloud identity user account for the cluster. Enable the constraints/IAM.disable service account creation organization policy at the project level. C. Create a custom service account for the cluster. Enable the constraints/IAM.disable service account key creation organization policy at the project level. D. Create a custom service account for the cluster. Enable the constraints/IAM.allow service account credential lifetime extension organization policy at the project level. Correct answer C. C. Create a custom service account for the cluster. Enable the constraints/IAM.disable service account key creation organization policy at the project level. 118. You need to set up two network segments, one with an untrusted subnet and the other with a trusted subnet. You want to configure a virtual appliance such as a next-generation firewall, NGFW, to inspect all traffic between the two network segments. How should you design the network to inspect the traffic? A.1. Set up one VPC with two subnets, one trusted and the other untrusted. 2. Configure a custom route for all traffic 0.0.0.0/0 pointed to the virtual appliance. B.1. Set up one VPC with two subnets, one trusted and the other untrusted. 2. Configure a custom route for all RFC 1918 subnets pointed to the virtual appliance. C.1. Set up two VPC networks, one trusted and the other untrusted, and peer them together. 2. Configure a custom route on each network pointed to the virtual appliance. D.1. Set up two VPC networks, one trusted and the other untrusted. 2. Configure a virtual appliance using multiple network interfaces, with each interface connected to one of the VPC networks. Correct answer is D. D. 1. Set up two VPC networks, one trusted and the other untrusted. 2. Configure a virtual appliance using multiple network interfaces, with each interface connected to one of the VPC networks. (119) You are a member of your company's security team. You have been asked to reduce your Linux Bastion host external attack surface by removing all public IP addresses. Site reliability engineers, SREs, require access to the Bastion host from public locations so they can access the internal VPC while off-site. How should you enable this access? A. Implement Cloud VPN for the region where the Bastion host lives. B. Implement OS login with two-step verification for the Bastion host. C. Implement identity-aware proxy TCP forwarding for the Bastion host. D. Implement Google Cloud Armor in front of the Bastion host. Correct answer is C. C. Implement identity-aware proxy TCP forwarding for the Bastion host. (120) You need to enable VPC service controls and allow changes to perimeters in existing environments without preventing access to resources. Which VPC service controls mode should you use? A. Cloud Run. B. Native. C. Enforced. D. Dry Run. Correct answer is D. D. Dry Run.